Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is one of the brightest stars in the Democratic Party, and at a time when so many elected officials, including Democrats, are kind of bending the knee to Trump, they're ceding ground to him, kind of giving up already. Jasmine Crockett is doing anything but that, because she has been one of the most vocal opponents of Donald Trump and his entire agenda as he prepares to take office. And a perfect example of that has come over the past couple of days, actually two perfect examples of Jasmine Crockett going off on Donald Trump for his disastrous cabinet choices and for some ridiculous talking points being pushed on behalf of Donald Trump from his MAGA stooges in Congress. And we are going to get into both of those clips, including one when Jasmine Crockett delivered an incredible takedown of one of Donald Trump's stooges, like I said, in front of all of Congress. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now, before we get into Jasmine Crockett taking on Republicans in committee hearings, I want to check out this clip of her right here, calling out Donald Trump's cabinet nominees.
This is a matter of people being overwhelmed with trying to make sure that they could take care of their families, whether it was keeping a roof over their head, food on the table, or keeping their kids going at school, right? And, you know, when things feel a little bad, it always ends up reflecting on the current administration. And so until we get to the point that we start to tell people exactly what goes into the cost of food, what goes into the cost of gas and things like that, and understand who can do what, we're going to continue to see this cycle of, you know what, if I don't like the price of something, I'm going to blame the president and hope that if I vote for somebody opposite of the party that's in power, that everything will be fixed. And I got news for you. It is not going to go in the direction that he promised.
Okay, so I want to talk about how we move forward. I want to talk about branding and messaging as Democrats. But I did want to note that you also said in that same Vanity Fair article, because the economy is important for all of us, regardless of what your party affiliation is. But you said, look, folks that voted for him said the following, quote, well, I'll just take a shot with Trump. He may be an asshole. He may be racist, but I could afford my apartment. So now hopefully I'll be able to afford it again. I mean, I just played the quote from Trump where he's like, well, maybe the grocery prices, I can't control them, so I can't be able to bring them down.
Yeah, listen, again, you know, I just had to speak yesterday in Ohio. And one of the things that I told people is that we need to spend the next 2, 4, 6, 10 years really talking about what it is that government does and what it is that we don't do. We need to start educating people. The more educated people were about what it is that we as government could do, the better they were able to make their choices, right? And so here it is, you know, at least we had a candidate that would look at the price gouging that takes place with those at the top and say, you know what, you guys are just price gouging. This isn't inflation. This is greed. And guess what? We're going to go after you. Have you heard those types of words come out of Trump? Absolutely not. In fact, when we talk about grocery prices, one of the things that came out a little towards the end of the campaign was that a Kroger executive admitted that they have been price gouging. Listen, we still have a lot of people out here that are greedy because that's the country that we live in. And guess what? The greediest folk in America are now going to be the ones that are going to be running America, because he has decided that the millionaires and billionaires who were investing millions of dollars into his campaign, guess what? They're going to be the ones, regardless of their qualifications, that are going to run the government. But I can tell you one thing. I am going to push back and fight every single day that I can, because my constituents cannot afford to have billionaires telling them that they don't deserve their Social Security that they've paid into. 20% of my district live at or below poverty. And I know that they voted for the right candidate, whether it was me or whether it was Kamala Harris. My district got it right. So I'm going to do my part.
So let's talk about having people like you on House Judiciary, House Oversight. Let's talk about making those committees even more aggressive. There is nothing wrong or shameful by taking a page out of a good playbook that works. And one of those pages from the Republicans is having a level of an aggressive posture when it comes to making sure that the truth is delivered and that the lies don't obfuscate what is the reality for so many Americans.
Yeah, so right now we just got our ratios. Leader Jeffries just sent those out, so we know what the ratios are going to be on the committees. So that gives me an idea of my chances of potentially getting onto Judiciary. I am a permanent member of Oversight, but I am trying to get over to Judiciary and continue to serve with Jamie Raskin as my leader. And so with that, all the bad bills, for those that don't know, what comes to judiciary is anything from immigration to civil rights issues to LGBTQ issues. It's going to actually be some copyright and infringement issues, almost anything, gun control issues, all those things are going to come through there. And obviously, we're going to have the criminal justice issues that will come through that committee. And so, yes, I wanted to be on judiciary my first term. I am trying for judiciary again. And obviously, I feel as if working under Jamie Raskin has only made me a better member of Congress. But let me tell you, we are going to have to fight back and fight back hard, because that is where the bills are going to come out of. The vast majority of the bills are going to come through that committee. And, they may be able to get them out. But the one thing that I want to do is make sure that I beat up on them and make sure that the truth of those bills comes out, regardless of what the daggone title of the bill is going to be. I need people to understand this is nothing more than a target on your back, and this is going to hurt you, your friends, and your family.
Like I said, Congresswoman Crockett isn't holding back, and she is calling out just how unqualified Donald Trump's cabinet nominees are and the ways that they are only there to serve themselves, to serve Donald Trump's rich friends, and of course to serve Donald Trump. Because while Republicans will tell you that Donald Trump was elected in some overwhelming historical mandate, which isn't true, and he was doing so to lower costs, he's not. That's not what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants to serve himself and his rich friends, and of course lie in the process of doing so. And one of those lies that came up was about the U.S. Census recently, in which MAGA was pushing some ridiculous talking points that Jasmine Crockett called out in this video that was cut together by TYT. And I want to take a look right here.
We need a course on what the census is for, because we have people sitting in Congress and have no idea what the census is for. And so I do appreciate that you have talked about what the funding is for, but it seems like my colleagues really want to zero in on southern states. So let's talk about Texas for a second. And let's deal with them and their concerns about their districts. And let's also talk about the citizen situation. So I don't know how much you've paid attention to the election, but we do have an incoming administration, and we have a border czar who has said that they are going to deport everyone that is here and is not a citizen. They are planning to do mass deportations. In fact, in the state of Texas, our commissioner has offered up land so that they can put these camps there and send people out of our country. Now, if you start asking people, are you a citizen or not, and they're living in a home and somebody's threatening to go in and raid homes and take everybody out and send them back to wherever they came from, I mean, I would imagine that may make people say, never mind, I'm not going to fill this out. But I mean, has that been your finding or no?
We have conducted research that shows that there can be selective inclusion of individuals who reside in a residence because of
Exactly, because you've got the federal government that is asking this question, and it's the same federal government that is threatening to go and yank people out of their schools, their homes, and things like that. And then we just had a conversation where we were talking about how many voters. Listen, when you're counting people, you're not just counting voters. You count children, don't you?
Correct.
You count a lot of people that aren't necessarily voters, and I want to make sure that we really get to the nitty-gritty on Texas, because this is hilarious to me. Texas added 2 seats. In 2020, according to the census, and we know that there was a significant undercount, specifically in Texas for a combination of reasons, but we know that specifically Texas added 4 million people. Of those 4 million people, do you want to take a guess at how many were Anglos? Just a guess.
I'd say a majority.
180,000. That's it, of 4 million. 95% of the people that were added, and we know that when it comes to minority populations, they tend to be undercounted. So get this, we added 4 million people. They were people of color. Texas got 2 new seats. So they took those black and brown and Asian bodies, and guess what? Do you think that we got a new black, brown, or Asian seat? Somehow, the way that they do their Republican math in the state of Texas, that amounted to 2 new white seats. Guess what? White Republican seats. We got 2 new Republican seats out of 4 million people of color. So let me tell you, they love to use our bodies to apportion us in an inaccurate way. All right. So when we talk about our districts, I also want to talk about something that Texas is taking advantage of that I've worked on a lot. In fact, I did legislation on. It is called prison gerrymandering. I don't know if you are familiar with it.
I'm familiar.
But here is the reality. The numbers show that in rural Texas, they were constantly bleeding population. Urban Texas was growing exponentially. But what they do is they count inmates where they are imprisoned instead of counting them where it is that they will return to. So their family members that are in Dallas, Texas, or Houston, or wherever, their family members, when they need something, they call us, even if it's relating to that inmate. But somehow rural Texas is getting better roads than they probably deserve because they're counting those inmates that are not driving on those roads. They're counting those inmates that are not using their hospitals. They're counting those inmates whose children are not attending their schools because of prison gerrymandering. So again, Republicans are really good about using black and brown bodies because I can also tell you that the numbers are clear that we have a black and brown incarceration issue, not just in Texas, but in this country. And in fact, the state of Texas incarcerates more people than any other independent democratic country. That is how bad our incarceration is just in the state of Texas. And I've got so many great colleagues on this committee that actually benefit.
Like I said, not holding back and calling out the BS. Jasmine Crockett, one of the brightest stars in the Democratic Party. So glad to have her on our side, and I cannot wait to continue to cover her more. And if you want to stick around for all that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And let me know, is Jasmine Crockett your favorite member of Congress? Because she is slowly becoming mine. That's a tough list to break to the top of, but she is slowly becoming mine. And until next time, I'll see you soon.